has 2-hour delay. So before you adventure out, go on the internet, look up your school. I should put that thing back up there. Once we get settled, I'll put it up there and I'll scroll through that while Evelyn and Bobby and Sam chip a chaperone. So I'll put it up a couple of minutes, but most of the schools 2-hour delay except for St. Patrick's School in Lowell. No school for you guys.
Yeah, I didn't say anything on Chelmsford at all.
on, kids.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Evelyn Thoren. I'm your host for, well, actually the next 2 hours, but we're on the dawn patrol until 7 o'clock, and from 7 to 8 we have City Life. A little messy out there. Bob Hoey is with us. I'm glad you're feeling much better, Bob. Nice to have you back.
Looking good, too.
Yep. Sam Chase is here as my co-host. John McDonough's out there trying to make sure that we do get out on the airwaves. Sounds funny because that's what they used to say in the 40s, and I wasn't born in the 40s.
They said it in the 50s, too, so you're okay.
Yeah, but I was fairly young then. So it did snow. That's
Sort
why
of.
we're all sitting here. If it had been ice, we're not sure exactly what we would have done. And because we discussed it briefly yesterday, because John wanted to zoom in, but the current small computer I have is very difficult to do that. I have tried that in the past, and it didn't seem to work very well. Get a picture, but no sound. So we'll see how that all goes. It looks like we don't have the guest coming in that he said he was going to come in, because Glenn got up early and asked, who's on, and I said, well, John said he was going to have a guest, but if we don't, we don't. We got 2 hours to talk about an awful lot of stuff that's out there. Might be nice to have that particular reprieve and analyze anything and everything. So when I looked at the thermometer that's on my deck, it was 32. My van was 29. They're out there plowing, sanding, salting, whatever it is that's going on the roads. And so if you are looking to go someplace, things are seemingly wet. It's the side streets. Take it easy because it's extremely slippery on those side streets. I don't have all-wheel drive, so, and if you're driving on ice, it doesn't matter what kind of a drive you have. We'll see, and there's also a lot of 2-hour
I don't care what kind of
delays.
vehicle you have. People get emboldened with these four-wheel drives and all-wheel drives. Just remember, you can't stop any better than if you were driving a two-wheel drive car, okay? You may be able to go better because of your drive system, but you can't stop any better, okay? Just remember that.
So I also looked at the weather map, and it looks like the ice is pretty much here. It did say, I have AccuWeather as an app on my telephone. It did say that, at 7 o'clock, it was going to turn over. But when I was taking all the snow off my van, it was drizzling at that point. So it ought to be fun when we
Yes.
leave here, if it doesn't get warm enough, because we'll have to scrape the ice off the cars. And we'll see how it goes. So you guys didn't have any trouble getting here, right?
Not at all.
Well, my wife said take her car because her car is in the garage, so I don't have to scrape, and it is also all-wheel drive, so it is.
My best advice to you
little
guys,
steps.
go back to bed.
Yeah, I
Go
agree.
back to bed.
Yeah, that's right.
It's freezing rain now.
Yeah, that's what I figured it was going to do. And so
It'll
it'll be
warm up
interesting to
later.
get home, have a bunch of things going on. So we were talking about, and I bring it up every so often anyway, my mother's 103, and at some point, you do run out of money, unless you have an exorbitant amount of money. The other issue is there's so many.
I don't know, Evelyn, if you're 150 years old, you can still get a Social Security check.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
I learned that the other day watching TV.
Yeah. Among other things that they're talking about.
Yeah.
There were other articles that preceded that.
And the Democrats say, well, he missed it his first term too, didn't he?
Yeah, well,
Oh, people are just so hateful.
They're not helping themselves, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, they're not.
So, the issue is that when you do begin to run out of money, what do you do if you are in an older age bracket? And the answer usually is that if you're in assisted living and you're going to run out of money, you've got to get into a nursing facility or
You
long
move in
range.
with a pillow partner.
Yeah, well, it's
You run
ve-
out of money, you gotta find a pillow partner.
Yeah, well, not at 103. So,
Okay,
so
so you say.
you
Where do you
look.
get there?
So my advice, if anybody is listening, is the following. If you think that you have a parent or a family member or a friend, that the advice that, because we don't have anybody working with us or for us, my sister and myself, that's the two of us, is that if you have an idea where it's a nice facility, or go around and visit quite a number of them, so you have something to compare it to, is that you want to get on a waiting list. And in order to do that, you have to probably back yourself up a year, not 6 months. We were at the 6 months. I'm not in charge of stuff, my sister is. And so, we're at the 6-month time frame rather than a year. Put her on a waiting list, and whenever she can get in, that's great. Other than that, we're not biting our fingernails or anything, wondering where she's going to go. She's on waiting lists, which is a good thing. But nobody told us that. And it's not as if you can call up a hotel and say, I'd like to reserve a room. And you can go in the next day or in 3 days. It doesn't work like that. You do have a waiting list and people are ahead of you. And it does help if you can go in at private pay versus go in at Mass Health. Because when you run out of any of your own personal finances, you got to get down to about, I would say, $3,000 overall, and then, or four, and then you have to apply to Mass Health. We haven't got to that point, but stay tuned. So when we do get to that point, I'll tell you what that process is like, because they have a 5-year look back. I've already been through it with my uncle probably a decade ago, and it looks like the process hasn't changed any. So anybody that's out there looking to do that, it's very interesting. It's also very interesting when you you want to prepay all your funeral expenses. And then the funeral director that we're dealing with, now John has all of his own personal experiences because he has his own business. So the funeral director that we're dealing with said, create another escrow account of about $1,500 in case there's any additional expenses or increases at the end, and you're still using her money. And it's not your money that's going to pay the differences, because you still have to pay your bills regardless of whether or not you're dead. Somebody pays them. The other thing that I thought was interesting is if you're a veteran. There are some positive things with that. There's a reduction because the government will pay a certain amount. Mm-hmm. And where my mother chose her plots, the bronze markers that are there, if you have the relatives' discharge papers, then I think they pay for that. And the amount of money for all the burial is very, very small in comparison to if you're a non-veteran. So there's certain things that you can look into with regard to that.
So the spouse of the veteran is covered, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you got to still buy the location.
Oh, I understand.
Okay.
But
Now, the only thing that
your mother
changes.
can go in at the veterans' rates and have all that stuff done?
No.
Oh, she can't?
No.
Okay.
So what happens is she has, I don't think she realized she did, or maybe she did. She has a 4-person plot. Okay, so basically it's 2, and then they still do the stack 'em thing. Maybe, John, you can tell us if that has changed any. My mother told me it changed. You can't stack people anymore in a grave.
Every cemetery is different.
So anyway, in this one, what changes, Sam, is the cost of the plaques. So if you have at this location, this doesn't mean it's everywhere, so there's a bronze plaque, and if you have one plaque for that plot, it sounded like it's around $4,700. And so what that plaque has is a place where you can put flowers, like a vase that comes up, and then you've got 4 little mini plaques that screw on as people die so that you know who's buried there. Since he's a veteran, you can get a plaque and you have the discharge papers. So what they do is they put his rank and his name
Right.
and the birth and death dates. And then you have a smaller plaque that you pay full price for, which runs around $3,600 on the other side, that would have the family name on it, the last name, and then there's 3 plaques on that one, regardless, because that's how they sell them. So it costs about $1,000 less to put the plaques down because Dad was a Marine veteran from World War II. So, and because there was a cremation, the cost of quote unquote opening the grave is a lot less than if you have a full casket.
So is it, John will answer this question, is it true that if you buy a cemetery plot and everybody's going to be cremated, you can get more people in there as opposed to having the full bodies?
Sadly, the answer is always going to be depends on the cemetery.
Okay, all right.
However, where do you want your ashes to go? Okay, I wanted to bury, but now I want cremation. Cool, whatever you want. Where do you want your ashes to go? People forget that little, I want cremation. They ain't gonna forget about it.
Yeah.
Well, we get 5 pounds of dust, cremated remains. Where do you want that to go? So you gotta put, I don't care what. No. Give them direction, okay?
Yeah, no, exactly.
You give them direction, you want cremation. Well, what do you want done with your ashes?
So, in your experience, what percentage of people who are cremated actually have their ashes buried in a regular plot?
75% of them take them home.
Really?
Yep.
But then what happens? Well, of course, you don't know.
Well, he doesn't
until-
care at that
Well,
point.
they might scatter them over Mount Washington. They might go down to some amusement park in Florida and scatter them. You don't know. They have a place in mind. And 25% will put them in the family grave.
25%. So, the reason I ask is because my wife's parents are buried on Martha's Vineyard, and they were cremated. My wife's grandfather was cremated, and so it was like a 6-spot plot. But we were talking to the superintendent down there, and to John's point, I guess it varies per cemetery. And we asked that question. We said, how many people can you get in here if everybody's cremated? He says, probably about 5,000. So I guess in that particular cemetery,
They allow multiple.
they allow multiple ash canisters or whatever they're called to be
Urns.
urns to be
Well, some cemeteries just want the ashes themselves.
they don't
Take them out of the container and they just go in the grave.
Oh,
Some
okay.
want them in a permanent urn. That's an urn that's mostly crush-proof.
What do we do in Chelmsford? Do you know? I could
I'd
ask
have
my
to ask
wife.
Dave.
I'll ask my wife. She's a cemetery
But I
commissioner.
think, Dave, you might have to have a cement container there.
I-
And the reason for all
yeah,
that
I
is
think you
because
do.
we're burying something forever. And you don't want the grave to cave in
Right.
so somebody breaks an ankle in 150 years.
That makes sense.
So that's why many cemeteries require cement, that the ashes go in cement.
Yeah,
But the
obviously.
cement deteriorates too with water
Well,
over time.
Like the foundation of your house. Right.
yeah, right.
Yes, but
Takes
my
a while.
foundation isn't fully, and my foundation is not fully,
Ev, guaranteed, 150 years, it'll still be there.
Yeah.
okay, because you're not putting tar on it either to waterproof it, because the outside of, by code, the outside of your foundation is
On
tarred.
the other side of that, Evelyn, it's New England. So if you have tar on it, and the tar cracks, water gets in, and freezes and thaws, and freezes and thaws, and it can't get out.
Well, anyway, we've dug up stuff, and it's been 40 or 50 years, and the tar's
But
still
answering
fine.
Sam's question, every cemetery is different.
Everyone's different. Okay,
And I'm
that's.
just suggesting
that's-
that if you want cremation, where do you want your ashes to go? Oh, scatter me off the beach. Cool.
Yeah, I have a friend that wants to do that, because she has a favorite place
But do
that
you
she's
do
always-
that as a funeral director?
Yeah,
If
we
they-
go out once a year.
So all right, so you provide that
We
service.
go out off of the coast of, we've got a Hampton Harbor, and the guy goes full throttle for 20 minutes. And then he slows down for 20 minutes, and there's 2 of us that's there, and we scatter the ashes one at a time into the ocean. And then 20 minutes back. So we're going about an hour.
Well, my father
Interesting.
specifically said that he wanted to be buried where he's going to be buried. And because he had the right to be at Arlington National Cemetery or Otis Air Force Base or Bourne, he has, because of being a World War II veteran. And they have a lot of places to put him, walls and different things, because he's in an urn. And we bought the size urn that if my sister and I chose to put him somewhere different, it would fit. Because that's the other thing, is that they're all made, there's a certain spec. And so if you do something slightly different, it's not going to fit in the cubbyhole that's in whatever the wall is for all the different urns that they have out there. Anyway, that being stated, at least if anybody's listening, and it's sort of boring and depressing.
But we learned a few things. That's
Well,
good.
yeah, and I learned an awful lot of stuff about nursing homes.
And the bottom line is, enjoy every minute of your life.
Exactly.
So one of the articles
There's an
that I
old
had-
saying, you're a long time in the tomb, so while you're alive, zoom, zoom, zoom. Right?
Good one, Sam.
Who said that?
I heard that, I don't know. I heard that years ago. I don't remember where that came.
Anyway, there was an article that I came across last night. I'm certainly sure that you guys didn't have a chance to review it. And we'll talk about why Sam wouldn't have been able to review it in a second. And it's from Fortune magazine. And it was funny because with what I've just said about a waiting list and everything, there's not enough places out there for our generation. And they're not building them either. And you
To
can't,
live, you mean?
You're talking about housing, right?
I'm talking about nursing home housing.
nursing home, okay.
And long-term care.
All right.
So there is an article on Fortune magazine, and it goes through all of the stuff that we just talked about in terms of long-term care, and because there's a high cost to all of this. So we'll see. So leading from that, you can lead into some of the discoveries that Musk has found in the different budgets that he's been going through. And I think that the easiest way to find the money, or find money, is the Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, where they're paying people who are dead, because the Social Security numbers have been stolen. And they're
Right,
being
exactly.
reused.
That's
And you can
exactly
track
right.
it. And there's millions, maybe billions of dollars. And when everybody out there is going, what is he doing? And he's unelected. Well, Fauci was unelected, and they basically anointed him king for 2.5, 3
Every
years.
single employee of a federal agency is unelected.
Well, that's why when they started,
What a
we went through
stupid thing!
that.
What a stupid thing to say.
And so, and when an awful
Yeah.
lot of the directors come before Congress for review, they're not elected by the American people. You have a lot of appointed individuals, far more than elected, that's in Washington, D.C. So there's a lot of logic out there that they're totally ignoring, and they should be on the page of, this is how we would like to see the fraud reviewed. However, when they're talking about having to come before Congress, that's been tried before. Now, Sam, you know about that, and I want to know what Bob's view is.
The bottom
sitting
line
there.
is,
I'm listening.
everybody, you can criticize Trump and what he's doing all you want, okay? And I guess looking at this, I have some feelings. I'm not sure I would do it exactly the way he's doing it. But that said, every other attempt previous to get at the bottom of this, to take a look at the federal government operations, the spending, and so on and so forth, and reduce the size of government, which almost every Republican administration says they want to do, it's never happened. Okay, so you get to the point where you've listened really since the Eisenhower administration, okay? You've listened to these Republican administrations say, smaller government, reduce the size of government, waste, fraud, it's gotten worse, all right? So in the Reagan administration, they established the Grace Commission, which was bipartisan driven, and they found over $200 billion back then, 40 years ago. So multiply that number by about 6 or 7 to get it in today's money, okay, of so-called waste, fraud, whatever you wish to, however, unnecessary spending, all right? And they did a nice job. And I remember reading the Grace Commission report when it came out, and I'm thinking some of this stuff is low-hanging fruit. I mean, there were things in there like the 150-year-old person getting social, what you would consider, well, nobody's going to argue that we should stop that, right? And you know what happened? That report sat on a shelf someplace, okay? And what I'm saying is that all previous attempts to address this issue really have been window dressing, all right? Nothing has happened. So enter Trump, and he's taken a sledgehammer to it, because he's looking back 60 years and saying all the attempts to address this reasonably, okay, through the process haven't worked because there's no political will to make any changes. So the only way we're going to be able to get to the root of this thing is to blow stuff up. And it's very unsettling, and people don't like it. And people even though most of the Republicans seem to be going along with it, I got a clue for you, they don't like it either, all right? Trump is a disruptor, and he blows stuff up, And even if the result is good, it still makes people very uncomfortable, okay? But I understand why it is the way it is. Again, you've got to look back over the history and understand that all attempts to address it through regular process or reasonably hadn't worked, okay? So now this is almost a last resort effort, okay? And I don't think I would want to be, if I were a politician, I don't think I'd want to be in the position of taking the position that I shouldn't be audited, okay? We've got that at the state level.
Right, I sent you an article.
It was.
Did you see the article?
We voted.
Yes.
Massachusetts voters voted for an audit of the State House, and the legislators are saying, oh, no, we shouldn't be audited, okay? Well, you know what a red flag is, right, folks? When somebody says, I shouldn't be audited, you better hire the auditors, okay? That's when you need to do an audit. And I just think it's ridiculous. And if what the Democrats are saying is true, then, and you know, it's illegitimate and it's wrong and you know, they can't prove anything, well then, Trump's going to look like an idiot, isn't he? So why don't they just shut their mouth and let the process go, okay? Because, and the answer to that is obvious, because they know, okay, that he's on the right track. He's on the right track, okay?
Well, when you, I mean, I've been listening to stuff on TV. Have you been listening to all of this stuff, Bob?
Oh, it drives you crazy.
I have watched every press conference the president has had since January 22nd. I've watched all of them. It's painful. The reason I do it is because if you watch the news, they're not going to tell you the truth about what happened. You actually have to go back and listen to the source. You have to go back and read all the executive orders, which I am doing. And I'll tell you, you read an executive order that the president put out, and then you listen to how it's described on Fox or MSNBC, and you would think you were on a different planet, because it's not the same thing. You got to go back and read the documents to find out what was done and what was said, okay? And it's never the way they portray it, on either side, okay? It's never the way they portray it, you know? I mean, I've stopped watching the news. I can't do it anymore, because it's just, it's all theater. It's all nonsense, okay? It's all nonsense. Don't
Sam,
waste your
You bring up a very
time.
good point, because when I watch Channel 5 this morning,
Oh, please.
and they're misquoting what the president said
Yep.
yesterday, I got to say to myself,
Yep.
what else are they misquoting
Yep.
in this newscast? And I just
Absolutely right, John.
change the channel.
It doesn't matter, because you're going to get the same thing on another channel, okay? I mean, it's just,
Well, that's local
Yeah.
in a very democratic state.
it doesn't matter,
I'm going to
okay?
blow through these texts real quick.
Yeah.
Why was Bernie Sanders out there protesting against the uncovering of the waste? I thought he was independent. He's a bad dude. That's from Jay.
Bernie Sanders is a socialist, and a core tenet of socialist philosophy is the bigger the government, the better, okay?
Home run, Sam. That's
Yeah.
from your fan club.
Thank you.
And the last
Oh, my
for
one
this,
person that likes me? That's good.
Elon should leave his mini-me at home. I'm pretty sure he can afford a babysitter.
I thought that was one of the better touchers.
The kid will look cute.
Yes, and plus the fact it shows that, and he was very well behaved in comparison to
Did
how some
anybody
kids can be.
complain when JFK had his kids in the Oval Office? Did you hear any complaints back then? And you're
We
old
could
enough
have.
to remember.
We could have.
No, no.
By the way, most schools have a 2-hour delay.
Yeah.
Some don't. Drake gets on time.
Have you seen?
Greater Lowell's on time.
Chelmsford?
Kingsborough's on time.
Do you have Chelmsford?
Tewksbury, there's 2-hour delay. Lowell, 2-hour delay. So go and check on the internet about your own. A lot of these charter schools. Go and check.
You know what I like about everything right now? I've been involved in 7 different elections, local elections in my life. And when you go around saying hi to people, one of the questions that they seem to ask you a lot is, what are you, a Democrat or a Republican? I remember going back when I first come on the show, I was a Democrat, registered Democrat. And then after hanging around with Cam K and a few people on this show, talking to me about becoming a Republican, I couldn't do that either, so I'm unenrolled. So when I tell people that now, because I'm out trying to run a campaign right now for school committee in Lowell this year, what I say to them is, I'm unenrolled, but I voted for Trump. That's the way I say it to them.
Well, that's what you did.
Yeah,
That's an honest statement, so that's fine.
And you wouldn't believe, and I'm telling you, I haven't had any negativity yet. Normally, if you say, like, I'm a Republican, oh, I can't vote for you, I don't vote. Democrat's a hard word to say right now. I'm telling you, even in this state, Democrat doesn't help you.
Both parties,
yeah.
both parties have failed miserably.
Yeah, but the
Trump is not a Republican. He may have the R after his name because that's the apparatus you need to go through to get yourself elected. Okay, that's our system. But that he does not espouse traditional Republican principles. He's
No,
he's a populist. That's what he is.
Right, well, he also has,
Yeah.
has come a distance, large or small, from where he was when he did support the Democratic Party. It's a very similar thing with Elon Musk. This is the first time he's been close to Republicans.
Because that was the Trump was a Democrat because that was the social circle he was in. Okay, that in his area in New York City. Okay.
And it's pretty much you had to be if you
Right.
wanted to get the permits.
It had
in order
nothing to do
build.
with had nothing to do with his
No, it had to do
political.
with business.
It had nothing to do with his political philosophy.
Mark
right.
Ratman changed his mind, and he's thrown his hat into the ring on Tewksbury, so good for Mark. I like Mark. I'll be going to his party.
When is their election?
I'm going to guess April.
Yeah, Chelmsford's
That's
is
a
April,
guess.
but we'll talk about Chelmsford election and some other stuff going on in Chelmsford after the 7 o'clock mark, in the possibility that we're going to be on live, and then we'll see how that goes. But anyway, as far as some of the other stuff that's going on, we were talking about the audit aspect of things. You wonder whether or not the reason that a lot of people are not. First of all, you have people that are very vocal, and then you have people that are very quiet. And they're letting everything play out in Washington. And so the question is, with the people that are very vocal, many times the people that are guilty are out there yelling and screaming far more than the people that may be innocent. And that
think-
goes in the other direction. Depends on how your philosophy is.
But I think that's right. So if somebody came to me tomorrow and said, the state came in and said, okay, Chase, we're going to audit the process of the assessor's office in Chelmsford. I'd say, great, come on in. And if you find anything wrong, let me know because I want to fix it, okay?
Sam, how about if somebody who hates your guts wants to do the inspection?
I would say, that's fine, but I'm not going to let you do it alone. You're going to have to have
Oh,
a partner.
see?
You're going to have a partner.
See, so I can
All
see
right.
where Elizabeth Warren and all the
Yep.
other people who are
Let-
involved here.
Then let them in. Let her in. She can go
Have
and
a
stand
complaint.
next. She can go stand next to Musk when he's doing his thing. Let her in.
As long as she keeps her
I don't have a problem
mouth
with that.
shut.
Yeah, let her in.
She doesn't have much to say when she
People
opens it.
who are investigating
Yep.
these individuals hate the individuals. They're looking for wrongdoing,
Mm-hmm.
and they should not be investigating these individuals.
Well, that happened in Lowell when Dr. Kafawi from Chelmsford, he's a Chelmsford resident.
Is he still there?
Oh, no.
Does he
He's
doesn't
still
live
in
in Chelsea? Does he still live
Oh,
in
yeah,
Chelsea?
he lives in
okay.
Chelmsford.
He hasn't
All right.
moved.
But anyways,
From what
I
we know.
remember I was on the school committee at the time, and there was a lot of hate for that guy, and for many reasons, but it was maintenance of effort issue that brought him down. But they wanted an audit done on everything about Dr. Kafawi and the books. And the city solicitor and the city hired Friends. The company that did the audit was Friends of the city solicitor in the city. They hired a personal friend, a company.
But isn't Lowell, aren't the Lowell operations audited every year? They're supposed to be.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they are every year, but I know they demanded one at that time.
We have every year in Chelmsford, we have an audit, school and municipal side, okay? And they audit every year, and they present a report, and they find things that are wrong, and we fix them, and that's the way it's supposed to go.
Yeah, but
You know?
to me, in Chelmsford, everything about Chelmsford, it comes to Paul Cohen. To me, that's how I feel personally. I think
Well,
Paul Cohen,
that's a provision of our charter.
I just think he's the best right now.
Well, he is, but the charter, the town manager has no choice. The charter requires an annual audit, an independent audit, And the charter also requires that we change audit firms.
I get a kick out of the
Periodically.
independent audit, Sam.
Yeah, well, it is.
But we hire somebody who finds things the way we like them.
No, they're finding things that we
No,
don't
they-
like.
They find things that we don't like.
Oh, yeah, we have,
But
there's a lot of documentation.
the charter,
of that.
Well, so what's Lowell doing so freaking wrong then? Lowell does not have any intention of living within their means. Right now, they're going, oh, we're instructing the public how much more money we're gonna rip out of them. We're having all these public hearings so they understand why we're ripping their pockets out of their pants.
Well,
Look it, stop blowing money.
the problem in
The city
Lowell,
of Lowell blows through every taxpayer's dollar, every federal money they get, state money, grants, whatever they can grab, and they blow it. Knock it off.
Sam, what was you going to say?
let's get the
The
audit.
problem in Lowell?
well, the problem in Lowell, as far as the taxes are concerned, is you guys are not at your levy limit, so you can go beyond the limitations of Proposition 2.5.
Yeah,
okay?
but Sam, look at the subsidies we get compared to Chelmsford.
Oh, yeah, you got your, 65%, 65% of your budget is aid.
Yeah.
Well, even with the increased amount of money that Chelmsford has been getting as a result of having the millionaire's tax in Massachusetts.
It's not much.
Well, there was some.
Yeah.
But instead of putting it into the budget, they
Actually,
put it
read
into
this one when
one-time
you're done your thought, Rick.
expenditures.
Yeah, read that one.
Mad Maxine Waters, Chucky Doll, Schumer, and all the old Democrats from the mob are out there waving their canes. It was quite hilarious. I think that what was really hilarious was when Maxine Waters went to the Department of Education to demand to be in there, and you hear on the news later that they had skipped a hearing on the Department of Education.
Oh, that's
to,
funny.
to stand there. So people may want to actually take a look and investigate a little bit,
See, I
do some
think they ma-
research.
I think
By
they
the-
made a mistake. They should have let her in. Because,
No,
well,
no,
I'll
because
tell
she
you
would've been
why.
an idiot.
I'll tell you why.
She was told to keep people out.
I'll tell you why.
That's why the guy was standing there.
She knew she wasn't going to get in. I would have let her in because once she got in, she would not have known. She would not have
No,
known.
I'm listening.
She would not have known what to do.
I'm trying to
Once she
engage
got
her.
once she got in that building, she would not have known what to do because she knew before she went down there. She knew they weren't going to.
Well, yeah, because there was
Okay.
a security guard out front.
Why don't these politicians take questions? Why don't they have a news conference where, like the president does, where people can
Every
ask
day.
questions?
Well, he's having several.
Every day.
Every time he does something,
No,
he's
look,
answering the
Elizabeth
press.
Elizabeth Warren, I saw a video of her being asked questions in the street. She didn't say anything but smile. She
a
just
fra-
kept smiling
Well, because
for the video.
because she's a fraud.
Yeah, because she hasn't got anything to
The
say. That's
woman
why
is
she can do that.
She's a total fraud, and everybody knows it. All right.
I don't know if it's true, but Maxine Waters, recently, I seen
Right.
it on TV that she's worth $100 million.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And then they really can sing. Did you see them singing?
Oh, yeah,
I
I
thought that
thought-
was the funniest thing I ever seen in my life. They're terrible.
Well, the
I don't think Maxine has got much gray matter upstairs. That's just my opinion.
what will be interesting, and they probably will find this out, and that's why they're yelling very loudly, is that as they go through the line items in every single department, they are finding to a point that you have, say, $1,000 on the line that's supposed to go to someplace, and when they see how much the place received, it might be only 500. Where'd the other 500 go? And so they're trying to figure out where the money is going.
Well, you can do that, maybe. You can do that if it's something that happens domestically, but foreign aid, you have no way of tracking the money.
Well, that's why they've cut out so much
You
projects.
send $1 million to some foreign entity for a purpose. You have no idea whether it's gone to that purpose or not.
Right, and a lot of people in the
So-
country would like the money that we have to deal with
Right.
the homeless and the veterans and the problems we have here. And so instead of having an audit and making sure that dead people, well, they're not really dead people getting the money, there's live people, but I mean, that dead people aren't getting the money, they're ignoring that. And then they're also giving all the money to all these other countries for some things that people in this country are now finding ridiculous.
Remember how we felt when we thought the red wave was coming and it never came? And I fell for Trump as soon as he said drain the swamp. Well, that's what's happening right now. The red wave came, a few years late, but it's here. Trump's in control, the House is controlled, Congress is controlled by Republicans, and they're draining the swamp.
And
Get over it.
they don't have much time because you've got the midterms coming up. And depending on
knows that.
That's why they're moving as fast as they are.
Plus the fact that the way I look at it is we'll throw as much as we can against the wall to see what
Right,
sticks.
right.
And whatever sticks, it's going to
Right.
be more than it did before.
Right, and if they're challenged, they'll litigate it.
And that's what they're doing.
Right, and
And then
that's
you
what they're
had
gonna do.
the new Attorney General that has a case against the state of New York. They brought one against Illinois for Chicago because they are violating federal law.
They're obstructing justice.
You know, I'd
Yes.
like to give credit to John McDonough. I've never heard anybody complain more about how much we spend per pupil in schools and where we rank.
Where is it?
Nobody's talked more about it than him.
What is the number in Lowell? Do you have it?
17 grand.
17
For
per
kid in
pupil.
kindergarten,
Okay.
$17,000 per student.
And we rank around 38 out of
What is it in
top
Chel-
40 places.
I think it's around that in Chelmsford, isn't
I
it?
hope they change
don't
the
know, but
school
we-
vouchers. If they change
Yeah.
the school vouchers, where now I can send my kid to
Look
the
it up.
Immaculate, or I can send my kid to St. Patrick's, or I can send my kid to St. Michael's, or Hellenic.
Well, the concern that they all have is that you're going to dismantle public school education. What they don't seem to understand is that
Which
if
means
the
which-
scores in public school education, no matter how much money you throw at it, are decreasing, and the kids are becoming less intelligent, even if you have a lot of devices and all the other stuff, that obviously public school education is failing the American public. And they got to ask themselves why.
So it looks like we're spending $16,430 per student in Chelmsford. 16,430 is the number.
The Social Security overpayment for the person who's 150 years old is $240,000.
Oh, that's good.
That's if their check is only $400.
Yeah, but-
So, Social Security needs to get some serious looking at. These electronic payments, just not working. Even in cities, you can ask any town manager, any city manager, how many no-show employees do you have? I'll get back to you on that. They have no idea. It's all electronic pay. They don't know who's working, who's not working.
Well, I think that the thing that really fascinated me was the whole discussion about the employees working from home. And, I mean, I've actually had some experience with that, so I know how that works. And I think they were right to focus on that from day one, because that just, you can't justify that at all, that situation.
So when we
have for
looked up,
federal employees, over 2 million.
Oh,
right?
my God, who knows?
It's over 2 million.
Does anybody know?
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
it's over
well-
2 million.
so when we asked the question, what is the cost per pupil expenditure in Chelmsford, it comes up a lot of other information. And it tells you how they calculate that. And that's.
What is it, 14 grand?
No, 16.
16,430.
Right. So the other information that comes up on Google, I have Google, in case anybody wants to know, is it tells you, in case anybody wants to know, the total amount spent per pupil is calculated by dividing the total expenditures by the number of students enrolled in October. So they do a count of how many bodies are in seats, warming the seats, October 1st.
And then the
or
budget is
October
divided
3rd.
by that number.
And then the number's divided.
Right.
And in the country, the highest per pupil expenditure is New York City at $28,828.
I think Boston is right up there. Check
I
Boston.
think Cambridge is number one
Yeah.
now. Cambridge is
And
number one.
then it says Massachusetts, so they must have done an average of all of the cities and towns, spends $24,360 per student on K-12 education. And then it goes into what our,
When you're done there,
Budget
Bobby's
is-
Bobby's gonna read this one.
Go ahead, Bob.
The Department of Education is the next rock that Elon will uncover and find a lot of creatures. J.
Wait till they get to the military. That's where they're really going to find some money.
right, but they've also found money with this USAID thing, and a lot of people are up in arms. You see it all over Facebook. But what they don't seem to understand is, in order to be able to have some kind of audit with regard to that and looking at stuff, they got to freeze everything, because how do they know what's out there? So you freeze it all, the good stuff with the bad stuff, and then you begin to sort into columns as to what's good, what's maybe, what are we going to look into, what are we cutting, what's bad, what are we going to do with this, and how many people are we going to have implement it, and where is it going to go? And that's what they're doing.
And any of you guys know where it stands about the offer that Trump put out to all the federal employees? You can quit, I'll pay you till September.
I thought it was
what the court-
1%.
It's over now.
It's expired. The time has gone by where they can sign up for that.
Right, and then the judge said Monday, and so it expired on Monday. Did you look it up online to see? It's out, there's numbers out there.
Too many answers, but you guys read a lot of stuff, so
Sam
it was
said it
legal to
right.
do that. It was brought to court that he couldn't do that. Could he have done it?
He did it.
He did it.
And then what Musk found was that there was a policy that was out there that they only allowed so many federal employees' retirement per year. In other words, if you...
Well, that was constraint due to the ability to process the applications. It had nothing to do with any legal requirement. I mean, what Musk said was only 10,000 people a month can retire because that's the maximum number of applications that the government can process, okay, because of our antiquated filing systems and so forth. So that was a limiting factor. I don't think there's a rule that says only 10,000 people a month can retire. So
Well, it does say only 10,000 can retire.
Because
the
of-
reason is
because
of
they can't process
X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, they can't process the
Right, but it's out there.
applications faster.
And so
Right.
when he finds these things, then, and he's not getting paid, and more people that have money are volunteering to go through stuff. Now, I would like to know how they screen the people that he has working on all of this. I do have, some questions to be cautionary about whatever it is. Then they ask the questions about the conflict of interest. I would like to know how many reporters have taken a conflict of interest course or test so they understand exactly what that is, because they're asking some really stupid questions. And so
They
those
don't
of
care.
those of us that are elected or appointed in positions have to take a conflict of interest test
I just did mine.
and and send the certificate to the city or the town clerk. So we know something about it. So I would like to know, how many of those people have taken a look at those tests that are out there asking the questions so they don't ask stupid questions. And even Trump sat at an interview and said, if we think there's something he's looking at that might be a conflict, he's not looking at it. So there are some checks and balances because the general public I shouldn't say the general public, the general newspaper or whatever kind of media reporter that's out there doesn't know what they're doing or not doing. So some of them are asking the questions they know the answers to also.
They don't know and they don't want to know. So the question asked to me the other day was, well, why didn't the Trump administration take a couple of days and lay all this out and say, okay, here's what we're going to do, and here's how we're going to do it, and here are the people going to be involved, and we've done. I mean, they could have done that. They could have laid all that out. The problem is, and again, looking at it from their point of view, and I don't necessarily agree with the way the administration has launched this. I think it could have been done better. All right, but I understand why they did it. Like I said before, because it doesn't matter what Trump does. It's not going to be reported accurately, okay? He can take all the best steps in the world, and they're not going to say, well, this is what they did. They're going to make accusations. So I was telling my friends here, if you really want to know what's going on, you need to get, at nighttime, if you've got 5 or 6 hours, you need to get on your TV. You need to get on your TV and go up to YouTube and pull off all of these events because they've been recorded. So almost every day now, Trump has had some sort of a press conference. Okay, you might qualify it and say it's kind of informal, but whenever he does a signing or anything, he has reporters in the office and he answers questions. He's had more interactions with the press in 4 weeks than the previous guy did in 4 years. Okay, so he's out there. Okay, he's very transparent. What you've got to do is, if he has a 30-minute session where he signs EOs, and then he takes 20 minutes of questions. You got to watch that. Listen to what is said. And then the next day, turn on your news outlet. And how did they report that? And I'm going to tell you right now, because I've been doing this for 3 weeks. It's not being reported accurately on either side. Fox doesn't report it right. MSNBC doesn't report it right. ABC misquotes it. Forget it. Okay, if you want to know what's going on, you've got to, take the time and go back to the first primary source. Don't let other people tell you what somebody said. Don't do that, because it's not going to be right, okay? And if you're going to get up every morning with a mindset and only go to those sources that confirm what you already think, guess what, folks? That's not research. That's not keeping an open mind, and you will not be informed. You will be misinformed. Trust me, okay? And I get it that almost nobody has the time to do what I just said. I get that, okay? But I'm just saying, okay, if you want to know what's going on, you have to go to the primary source and listen and read, okay? Read the executive orders. They're published every day in the Federal Register. It's not a hard thing to do. Most of them aren't more than 2 or 3 pages, okay? Read it. Don't let Fox tell you what the executive order says. Don't let MSNBC tell you what the executive order says, because it won't be accurate.
And
Okay?
don't believe what the politicians tell you what it says
Exactly.
either.
Read the document yourself. Listen to the press conference. Don't listen to the post-press conference where they say, well, this is what was said. No, doesn't work.
Well, what's very interesting.
Doesn't work.
I find it thoroughly amusing, is that the press secretary, when she has all the reporters, and if you notice, there's
11.
more and more reporters in that press conference.
Well, they're
room.
letting them all in.
And
Yeah.
it's not screened, even though with some of them, it seems as though if you're not going to take our positions, you don't need to be here. So, and it isn't that you agree with the positions. It's that if you're out there and you're ignoring the positions and doing your own little thing, regardless of what we say, if you're not reporting what we're saying, you don't need to be here, because you're just warming a space.
This is a good statement. I agree with it. Hopefully, the American people will wake up and realize that the government is not here for your benefit.
Absolutely true.
The government is here for self-preservation of
Absolutely
themselves.
correct.
They're not here to help. They're here to help themselves.
Absolutely
Stay
correct.
in power.
And to comment on that, that's why when Trump is doing everything he's doing, and the Democrats are doing everything they're doing, that the overwhelming majority of the American people are going, okay, Trump, you're doing what you told us you were going to do. Okay, Democrats, you're back to where you were before, and that's why you lost. And there's a lot of people.
Now, the unenrolled made the decision, Evelyn. The unenrolled get up off their duff and they put Trump back in the seat.
Pretty much.
The Republicans didn't put him in power. The unenrolled did.
You're
No,
right.
I understand, and so did some Democrats. And there are Democrats that are in Congress that are saying nothing because they agree with what is going on in the White House, because they couldn't get anywhere where they were. And then you have the Massachusetts delegation that is being ridiculous.
Well, they're lunatics.
Can you only imagine what money movements are happening with our elected officials in Washington, D.C.? Okay, so for the no school stuff or the delayed school stuff, there's 152 of them. There's no way we can put that out there. So what I suggest you do is go to Google, go to school closings, Massachusetts,
Oh,
and
good.
scroll down and find your town. And so a
That's
lot of
good.
them are delayed. A lot of them are not. Like, I'm going to scroll down and see if Drake.
So what did Lowell do? Are they?
Bill Ricker has two, and Chelmsford wasn't on that list
Oh,
from what I
really?
could see.
Okay, so maybe they didn't do anything then.
I didn't see
No,
Chelmsford.
it's not there.
Nope.
So Chelmsford looks to be on time.
Yeah, well, that's about.
But if you do get to the school and you see the school's closed, take your kids to breakfast.
There you go.
That's what we used to do. We'd get up to St.
Yep,
Margaret's
Drakett's
School.
not there.
They were closed.
How about Lowell? What's going
Lowell's
on?
2 hours.
2 hours, okay.
Yeah. But there's a lot of those charter schools in Lowell. I don't know if they're closed, open, or whatever. So be prepared to take your kiddos to breakfast. Time is short, kids, you got 2 minutes to break.
So anyway, when, we'll go to break, but after that, we're gonna talk about some of the stuff going on in Chelmsford
Oh, yeah.
for politics, some of
Good
the
stuff.
upcoming guests that we're going to have in, future weeks, and, what they may actually bring to the table. But we do have an election in Chelmsford that's on the first Tuesday in April.
Is that for a planning board?
Everything.
Yes, there's planning board, school committee.
All the offices are up.
Right, and there are some uncontested, and there are some contested. I already have, we already have, as far as school committee goes, we do have one school committee member that wears a number of hats, and he will be on. And I've talked to the, one of the other ladies that's there, and I haven't heard much from her. And we have a third person, and I will be reaching out to her with regard to coming on the program. And if she doesn't, she doesn't. And if she does, we'll see exactly how much she knows about education and why she wants to be on that particular board. So we'll be back. If you take a look, John, we're just about up to 7 o'clock. And if you're leaving us, we hope you have a safe day.
See you
And
in a little bit. Thanks.
we'll be back shortly.
Yeah, don't,
Welcome back to City Life. I'm Evelyn Thoren. I am your host for the next approximate 57 minutes and a few seconds. My co-host Sam Chase and Bob Hoey. Welcome back, Bob. Glad that you seem to be feeling better. We have John McDonough behind the camera. We didn't have any guests this morning. Part of it's because of the weather. We hope that everybody stays safe. There
was
are
somebody
some.
scheduled?
I had asked Glenn if he wanted to come in,
Oh, okay.
and then John told me he thought somebody else was coming in, so I told Glenn I think we have a
Yeah, he
different
never
guest.
texted back, so.
It's
All right,
okay.
well,
It
that's
doesn't
okay.
matter. We have another hour, and that's fine.
It's all right.
Yeah, and so we have plenty that we can certainly talk about, that's for sure, lately anyway. We've been bombarded with quite a number of things coming out of Washington, D.C., and we all have an opinion about something. But be careful driving. It's supposed to get a little bit more icy later. When I came in, it was pretty much snow, and then it turned over as I drove. But the plows are out there sanding, and I don't see too much sand. I see an awful lot of salt on the roads, because that would be the stormwater
You're treating the roads.
act.
They
Yeah.
brine the roads pretty much now, although there are some towns around. I was shocked. I went through, the last snowstorm we had, I went through Acton, okay? And Acton's a fairly wealthy town, and they don't brine. They still use the rock salt. I was very surprised at that.
They don't understand the concept.
Well, I guess because I had a lengthy conversation with our DPW director, Christine Clancy, when they started the brining. I asked her about it because I didn't know anything about it, and I said, "Why do we do this?" And she said 2 reasons. Number one, it's 1/4 the cost, so it's a lot cheaper for the municipality to brine than it is to rock salt. And she said, and it works better. And I said, okay. 2 good reasons for doing the brining, I guess.
Do you need a
right?
special
Sam,
truck to do it?
The
Yes.
problem is, we hire people who don't know what they're doing. We give them a great freaking job. You're gonna run the highway department for our town, and you're gonna make everything fabulous. In Lowell, what they do is, do you know anything about computers? Yeah, I worked at Radio Shack. Beautiful.
You're hired.
We'll give you the job. You got the job. And so they don't understand brine, and then you go back to the politicians. Well, this is the way we've always done it. We've thrown salt down on the road. 100 years ago, they used to throw horse manure out. So what made
Yeah,
that
maybe
change?
that would
You
work.
know,
Heat.
most of my life I drove for a living, either a taxi cab, Uber. I was a roofer, but you know how rain or snow, you're not working, so I picked up a job as a taxi driver, Burlington, Lowell, many years I have. Last night I came in from New Hampshire, Splitbrook, I think it's exit 1. I came in from there at about midnight, and automatically I just slow down. I've been in one accident in my life. That's it. And I admitted it was my fault. I cut off some girl. When she got out of the car, she was crying. And I said, don't worry about it. I'm going to tell him it's my fault, because it was. I cut her off. And she hit me in the rear end, so I could have said it was her fault, but I didn't want to do it to this young girl. But anyways, one accident in my life. I get on the highway, Route 3 at midnight last night, heading toward Chelmsford, and I slow down to about 55. Instead of doing 65 or 70, I slowed down in this type of weather. The trucks that came by me were doing 80.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm telling you,
Yeah,
the
it's
trucks
really
make
tough.
those roads very scary, very scary.
Best episode I saw was this week going up to Manchester, New Hampshire. This guy's barreling on it in one of those big pickup trucks, big fat tires. He's in the far left lane, going like a bat out of you nowhere. And boy, he's going pretty fast. Some guy in a white Toyota bangs into the passing lane.
Oh.
Cuts this guy off. This guy in the big truck went onto the grass, kept his speed up, passed everybody, and came back onto the road.
Wow.
I said, I slowed way down. This is going to be bad. He just kept that sucker going.
Well, as bad as that is, you have to admire the skill of the truck driver that he was able to do
And the
that.
equipment the truck was
Exactly.
on the truck to
think
go
I-
roll all those bumps. Great stuff.
I've heard Sam say it before. These people that have all-wheel drive, they just think they can do 70 and 80 miles an hour.
You
on
can't
wet
stop,
roads.
you can't stop any better.
But my advice to everybody today is go back to bed.
Yeah, that's,
I would have liked to have done that.
I could have used that
You
advice
could have
this
zoomed.
morning.
We could be looking at you on your pillow with your phone in your hand.
Just,
Not quite. It was, for the aggravation it is for me to try to do that with the computer I have, it was easier for me to drive here.
I don't
That's
think-
why I said, if it's snow out there and it's not solid ice, I'm coming in.
Zoom
and-
is,
and do
tough.
what I need to do. But we have an election in Chelmsford, and that is the first Tuesday in April. And if, John, while I'm talking about this, if you want to get the Town of Chelmsford website up, you go to the town clerk, or on the face page of the webpage, it should tell you.
Right after our check messages.
Oh, that's fine.
it's right on the front page,
Yeah,
too.
and so it'll tell you because,
I'll be showing,
Everything's
Did
closed.
Evelyn bring any homemade baked goodies? Yes, she did. I'll be showing them in a minute or so. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, got to have your baked goods.
And then then I can talk a little more about cooking, so, and some fast things that people can do if they really want to, even if it's very difficult. Hopefully, people could follow directions. You know, never mind, I'll go into that later. So anyway, as far as Chelmsford goes, one of the things that is out there is, there's different meetings. I did contact the town manager's office about having an Arts and Technology Education Fund announcement, but I can make it here that if you know anyone that's on the staff of the Chelmsford Public School System and they're looking for some pet project or something that is going to enhance their curriculum or whatever they're doing as far as teaching, or if they are they're running a club in Chelmsford Public Schools, then they can get an application for the Arts and Technology Education Fund on the town website, or you had the school technology director send out an announcement to your emails.
Okay,
So
if there's
take a
your
look at
town
that.
website, what do you want me to click on?
Can
Well,
you-
I can't see anything, you gotta scroll
Can
down.
you scroll down a bit? See if that,
Keep going. Voter registration
Okay.
deadline, wanna hit that one?
no, next one over, your name here. Okay, there you go.
Oh, okay, I see what it says.
All right, that'll
You-
give you the
you-
list.
You read faster than I did.
There you go.
Okay, so as you can see, that the last day for them to be filed was Tuesday. So if you scroll down, keep going, keep going, keep going. All right, so we have 11 precincts, and then keep going. It starts with the select board. There you go. So in the select board, we have, unless there's a write-in candidate, you have a new member of the Board of Selectmen for 3 years. That's Aaron Cunningham. And Pat Wojcik has been reelected as long as a few people do vote for her. Again, it could be
She's already
write-ins.
certified.
Well, they had to be by
The-
now.
These people are all in because there's no opposition.
Right, Jeff Hardy is in for the 2-year seat. Now, on school committee, we do have a race. 2 seats for 3 years. There's Doreen Deschler, John Moses, and Maria Santos. John Moses is coming in, I think, at the end of the month, so we can talk to him again, because he wears different hats. I've asked Maria, and so I've been in contact with her, and I was waiting for Doreen's papers to be certified before I reached out to
They
her.
are.
You can see to the right, you have the planning board. So you have planning board, 2 seats for 3 years, 2 people pulled. So unless somebody has, again, a write-in campaign, they are elected.
They're in.
And then 1 seat for 2 years, you have a race there with Nancy Arroway and Marcy Comtois. Is that how you pronounce her name? Twice?
Well,
Comtois.
the Anglican pronunciation is Comtois. In French, it would be Comtois,
Oh, okay.
okay?
Okay, and then the associate member, it's an alternate member, you have 2 people running, and so you have Saritha Fernandez and Robert Mayotte.
Mayotte, no,
Robert
Mayotte's
Oh,
out.
not returned,
Yeah,
so
Mayotte's
she's
out.
in. Okay,
She's
sorry.
in, she's in, yeah. So,
We have the
Board of
one
Health.
person running for 3 years. He has an actual doctor, medical doctor. And the public library, this is 2 for 3. And so we congratulate Kathy Fox and Debbie Robeson. I know them.
why would you want a medical doctor on your Board of Health?
Yeah, wouldn't that be something? Nobody runs against them, and I wouldn't run against
No,
them.
I
I wouldn't
wouldn't.
mind being on the Board of Health, but
No.
I can't find the time to do that. So Housing Authority, there are 3 people
Oh,
running.
There's a race.
Yeah, and that's unique. I'm
Yeah.
wondering whether or not, because Rodney Cleaves pulled originally, if the other people pulled as a result of not wanting him
Well,
there.
I know one of the candidates quite well. In fact, she used to work for me, Judy O'Connor. So I think, and she's very into the housing, so I think she would have pulled anyway, wouldn't matter who else was running.
And then we have 1
yeah.
seat for 2 years, and that person doesn't have any competition. You can also see with town meeting reps.
These are all freebies, right? People working for free?
Yep.
Yes. So if we go, there are vacancies in
Oh, yeah.
precinct 3. So everybody can take a look at that. 2, 3, 4, 5,
Two vacancies there, yep.
6. There's a race in precinct 5. There's 6 people for 5 positions.
Yep,
And there's vacancies in
5.
5.
So
And
those will
in
be write-ins.
6, there's one vacancy. And in 7, you had somebody that didn't return papers, so therefore there's no competition
Yep.
there. I'm very happy about that because Glenn is running. You can see Glenn Thoren there, and so I'm happy about the fact, he may send out something anyway, but I'm just saying that we don't have to actually do more. And you can see where there are vacancies, all highlighted in yellow as you scroll down to the last 3 precincts. It seems as though there are races or...
Contest in 9, that's my precinct.
Yeah, but you're not running this year.
No, because I did it for 24 years. That's enough. I want other people to do it.
Well, I've been doing it for
So your
35
wife-
years, and I don't
Your wife in
mind.
the cemetery board or something like that?
Yeah,
She
last
was-
year.
She was the top vote getter in town.
Sam, question for you,
Yeah.
because your wife is on the cemetery board.
Yep.
What does the cemetery commission do in Chelmsford?
They are they don't actually run the daily operations. That's done by the superintendent, Dave Boyle. They are the statutory authority. They have to sign off on everything. So if you work for the cemetery department, you don't get paid unless the commissioners review the pay warrants and sign off on that. Vendors don't get hired unless the commissioners sign off on contracts. So they are the legal entity that
So they
runs
approve
the
what
department, but they don't actually get involved in the daily
So
operations.
superintendent does all the
Correct.
decision-making, and the board
Well,
decides if,
the board makes policy. The super can't change a policy. I mean, if they want to change an operating policy, then the board is responsible for policy. But the board can't say to Dave Boyle, I want you to hire my friend. Okay? They can't do that, all
Well, they
right?
can, but they're not supposed to.
Well, they're not, yeah, well,
It's not something that they
no,
do.
they don't do that.
Um,
So they don't get involved in that.
And
Right.
the other thing that may also occur, because we were talking about it this past weekend with Candy, if they're opening up sections or they're going to purchase land for more grave sites,
Mm-hmm.
that has to be approved by the commission. If they're going to put, I would
So
assume,
that's policy.
if they're
right.
going to put up more walls for
Yes.
urns, that has to be
Correct.
approved. If they were going to build mausoleums, which I find an interesting concept, as far as how much that would cost versus
Mm-hmm.
burial, then that's something that they would be entertaining. But because it's a cost, it comes under finances, it would be part of a budget, then the commissioners would vote on that.
And they've already, they've made some decisions recently. For example, they're not doing green burials. They're not doing that, all right? So
Crap.
that's the end of that discussion. And so, yeah, you're right, Evelyn's right. I mean, the commissioners, basically, they make policy, all right? The operations people carry it out. But the commissioner doesn't stand there and watch them opening graves and they don't do the operation.
Right, and because they're a public
Right.
committee or commission, they have to adhere to all the same rules and regulations
Well, they're municipal
and
employees.
requirements
Right.
as everybody else that's elected or appointed in the town of Chelmsford. So it's an interesting concept. That's something I might have liked to have done. I joked about the fact that
It's
I
very-
started with
it's very-
education
yeah.
where people begin, and I could end up with where people end up.
Well, actually, talk a little bit about it because my wife was is a reluctant politician, and there was a vacancy 2 years ago. Tom St. Germain was on the cemetery commission, and he moved out of town. All right, so he had to resign the seat. And when you have a vacancy in the cemetery commission, and it's between elections, the way that vacancy is filled is somebody is appointed to serve out the balance of the term, and the appointment is made by the remaining cemetery commissioners plus the select board, okay? So they were talking about, who'd be willing to step up and do this, and I happened to be in town hall, and somebody said, well, would your wife consider being on the cemetery commission? And I said, yeah,
So, Ab, what do we got here today, Kate?
Well, you have cranberry orange. There's
Boy.
an almond frosting glaze, whatever you want to call it. So you'll have to tell me
Please proceed, Sam.
Yep.
how it is. A little on the sweet side.
So I said, so I laughed, and I said, there is absolutely no way on God's green earth that she's going to do that.
But you asked anyway.
And I said, because she's just not into that at all, right? I said, but I said, just for laughs, I'll go home and I'll ask her and I'll say, oh, you want to hear something funny? I said, people think you'd be a good candidate to be on the cemetery commission, and if you applied, I said, they're going to advertise it, and, if you apply, you might get appointed. She says, yeah, I'd kind of like to do that. Well, I almost fell over, couldn't believe it. So she got, and nobody else applied. I mean, they advertise it, they put it out there and they say, there's an opening and we're going to be appointing, does anybody want it? And she applied, and she was the only applicant, so she got the appointment, and that was to fill out the unexpired one-year term. So a year goes by, and now the seat is open for 3 years. And I figured, well, that's the end of that. And she says, gee, I think I'll run for the 3-year seat. And so, bottom line is, she got into it, and she enjoys it.
She liked it.
She likes it, and she finds it very interesting, and she has learned an awful lot about how the cemetery works, and as a result, I've also learned a few things, because we talk about it. So, very interesting.
Well, when John Souza was elected to the planning board, then Nancy Souza took his place.
Right.
And Jeff Hardy now is going to be on the select board, and in Chelmsford in the charter, you can't hold 2 elected offices.
Right.
So we have, thought we were gonna have a vacancy, and I entertained it briefly until Kirk Marshall called me to tell me that he was running for it.
Yep.
And
He'll be good, too.
And he'll be fine.
Yeah, he'll be good.
So, just shows me I'm not supposed to be in any of those positions.
Right.
But there's a lot on my plate, so, I said I'd love to have run for school committee again, and just done one more term, because that's about the time frame that my grandchildren would be in the school
Well,
system.
I think you're better off. Here's my philosophy on that, and because I've had a lot of pressure over the years to run for selectman
getting any pressure.
again. Okay, and the answer is no. I just and I'm a student of history, and my observation is that when people do that, they've served, they're out of office for a while, and then they go back and run again. It almost always never works out. Your reputation does not survive, okay? And I would rather have been on the Board of Selectmen 20 years ago and have people say, gee, he wasn't a bad selectman, rather than to run again and go through another 3 years and have half the town say, oh my God, he's awful. So I'd rather leave with my reputation relatively intact than to go back and spoil it, okay? And usually that's what happens, okay? So unless you get a guy like Trump who doesn't care, all right?
Well, Andy
So,
Toronto ran,
It's Evelyn's favorite time.
and then
Okay.
came
Oh,
back and ran
announcements.
again, and he was fine.
Angie's a special case.
Well, I'm just saying,
Yeah,
he did it.
he's a special case.
Evelyn's favorite time of the show, announcements. If you want an announcement on City Life, easy to do. Send me a text, call my cell phone, whatever you want to do. Happy to put your issue out there. Now, today is February 13th. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day.
Sorry, buddy.
So if you got a girlfriend, boyfriend, spouse,
$2.
take them to lunch.
Oh, it's free, right?
Today, we have meatloaf over at the Lowell
Oh.
Senior Center. Lowell Senior Center is proud to serve food 7 days a week. And it's free. We'll ask you for $2, but if you don't get it, you don't gotta pay. So if you got $2, you walk in the front door, gal at the desk, her name's Tara,
Meatloaf.
and you talk to her, and if you don't have the money, she'll give you a ticket. If you got the $2, that's great. And you go into what we call the great room. You sit down, and you got to get there around 10:30 to talk to Tara. 11 o'clock they serve,
Oh, I'll be all
and
right.
come 11:30 the feed bag's all over. So it's pretty easy. So today we got meatloaf, which is delicious. Tomorrow for Valentine's Day, stuffed chicken breast.
I love the animals they put on.
So that's good. That's for tomorrow. Okay, coming out in Tewksbury, Valentine's Day. This is tomorrow. This is pretty cool. So for you single
dating.
old timers like me, I'm not single, sorry, but for you old timers who are single, I can't make it fit on the screen. But this is a really good idea. Speed dating is fun. It's tomorrow at the Tewksbury Senior Center. The only thing you gotta do is you gotta call Susan. Their phone number's on the bottom of the screen there. But if you're looking for an am-cham, speed dating is fun, efficient way to meet new people.
What is
The Tewksbury Council on Aging Senior Center is teaming up with several surrounding Council on Agings to offer this free Valentine's event. The goal is for each person to meet up to 12 other local single seniors through a series of 6-minute conversations. We facilitate the whole thing, so there's no awkwardness, pressure, embarrassment, or games. After the event, we will contact participants and let them know if they made a match. More than 2/3 of the speed daters match at least one person. It's free. It's tomorrow. So take your fancy phone out of your pocket, take a picture of that phone number, wait till like 9 o'clock, call Susan and say, I'll be out there. Good idea. Coming up on March 1st is the Kids and Disability Sports versus the Lowell Fire Department at the Mahoney School. That's all the information I have on this. I don't know anything else. So if you're interested, be in touch with the Mahoney School, and maybe they know some more information. Every Thursday in lovely Lowell, Massachusetts, and Keith Rudy, thank you for sending us this. They have the Golden Gloves, and Lowell's been doing this for 78 years. So if you have a fancy phone, put it in camera mode and zero in on this guy right here, this QR, it's called a QR code. It'll bring you to a website with a lot more information. Good time, bring your grandkids down there, show them what boxing's all about. Pretty cool stuff.
What does QR stand for, do you know?
I don't know.
No,
I'll
I
look
don't
that
either.
up in a little bit.
Yeah.
Out in Tewksbury, the Senior Center is having a health fair April
Sure.
9th at the Tewksbury Senior Center. Questions or want to be a vendor, you can contact Susan Timmons with the phone number on the bottom. But they're going to have a health fair. It's coming up April 9th at the Tewksbury
response.
Senior Center. Any Tom, Dick, and Mary
Okay.
can go there.
Okay.
The only rule is you got to be 60 years old. So you could be living in Timbuktu, go to the Tewksbury Senior Center for the health fair. Veterans Group, another thing out in Tewksbury. We got Veterans Support Group, February 21st at 10, third Friday of the month, at Tewksbury Senior Center Conference Room. Support for veterans, 60 comrades, peer support. Heather Bernard, clinical social worker intern. So if you're interested in that, it's February 21st, the 3rd of the month. Third Friday of the month.
Interesting.
That's all my announcements, Ev. Back over to you.
So you mentioned meatloaf was today, and so I thought it was interesting if anybody out there has anything favorite that they like to see in a meatloaf. Maybe you could share it with us, because I made one the other day, and every time I make one, it's a little different. Depends on what I happen to have locally.
Depends on how moist it is.
Oh, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have dry meatloaf. So the meatloaf that
I hate it when it's dry and you have to chisel through it. Sometimes at home, it's always exquisite. But we go out and I get meatloaf, sometimes you need a chisel.
that's why they serve gravy with it. So the
Doesn't help. You can put gravy on a rock and it ain't gonna.
well, I don't know why they probably overcook it, but this time when I made the meatloaf, I actually bought hamburger fresh rather than defrosting the ground meat that I had in my freezer. Now, when I have ground meat in my freezer, what I usually do, you can't do it now because everything's far more pricey. If they have a top of the round sirloin roast, I have them double grinded, and then I divide it up into 1-pound pieces and put it in my freezer, and I can pull it out. I can make chili. I can brown it so I can put it on a pizza. Make hamburger, any number of things. Sometimes I have the saltine crackers I put in it, sometimes breadcrumbs, and always an egg, unless you're making it for somebody that's allergic to eggs, and a little bit of Worcestershire sauce, because that gives it a little bit of a tang. And it depends on whether or not you've got tomatoes or you have ketchup. So there's a few things you can do that's really quick in it. Because I was making it for a friend of mine who it has trouble with things that are chewy. I sautéed my onions, and I put a little bit of celery in it. So, plus there's onion powder, garlic powder, and all the other stuff that goes with that, and then you bake it for a short amount of time. And Sam has had my meatloaf.
It's good.
Which is not dry. So, but I did find out by buying the hamburger versus having it ground from a roast, there's a lot more grease in what it is that you purchase than what it is that you have double ground from a roast. So, and it does taste.
So you grind, you get a leaner cut of meat when you're grinding it from the roast. So how do you how do you keep it from being dry? Because if you buy typical hamburger, like you say, there's more fat in it, so it generally wouldn't dry out as much. Am I wrong?
No, and part of the dryness may come from the lack of stuff in the meatloaf
Okay.
or too much of the dry stuff in the meatloaf. So when you mix a meatloaf, if it's kind of on the juicier side rather than the dry side, then that's better. So that's why you have the egg. You would have chopped tomatoes or stewed tomatoes. If you saute the onions, there's oil.
Okay.
That just olive oil that
So,
just
so
you're
you've
adding the
you've
moisture
added
to it.
stuff that is
But
contributing.
if you're adding the olive oil is a good fat versus the fat that they add to the meat that makes it the 85%, the 90%, the 80%. So, and sometimes they add water to it also. So there's a whole lot of little things that you can do as kind of a trick to making something taste a whole lot better.
Right.
So, and then the other thing that I had done, but I didn't take it to my friend because of the spiciness, is to do spare ribs. And so what you do with the spare ribs.
We had those last weekend.
Yes, I know, I made that for dinner. Is I have a slow cooker, and I noticed that
They were
if you
good.
do it fast at 4 hours versus doing it at the 8 hours, that determines how chewy it is.
Mm-hmm.
And my sister always does it in the oven. She doesn't do that. But I was doing it in the crock pot for 8 hours. And then I was taking and rolling it in all of the barbecue sauce and putting it in the oven for 30 minutes.
You want to read these, Ev?
Yeah, the
Oh.
best side dish with meatloaf is creamy homemade mashed potatoes. Yes, I agree. And sometimes meatloaf sandwiches the next day are great.
Yes.
Yes, and when I do that, I am constantly reminded of my grandmother. Question for John, Sam, and Bob.
Oh, good question.
We know of Evelyn's homemade baked goodies are delicious. Which one is your favorite?
Boy, this is a tough
I
one to
think
go
the
out.
one that came today. Orange, you said, and cranberry,
Yeah.
correct? I love that combination.
But remember, I gave you that apple crisp stuff,
Yeah, it's
too.
good stuff, too.
I like the apple pie that that has the non-traditional crust. What do you call that?
Oh, with the flaxseed?
Right.
Okay,
I
John,
I
your
love
turn.
everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Well, some's better than others. If you have a preference, what would you want me to make every week?
He doesn't care.
He
He
don't
went to the
care.
Four Seasons last night. How was that?
As long as it has
Oh,
sugar in it, we're happy.
We had baked, usually when you order baked scallops, it's like a 20-minute wait. Bam, it came right out.
Really?
Those guys are great. Four Seasons, bottom of back Central Street.
Yeah, I know the rest.
Always delicious stuff there. Back over to you guys.
So, and so for the person that's doing the texting, what is your favorite thing that, if somebody's going to bake something for you, what is your favorite thing to eat? I don't think I've brought in the Boston cream pie that I make, because that was really good, too. You've had that. And
Those lemon things were good.
then I made
That you
what they
did.
called a lemon dump cake, except I know how I would change it up. And that came up really good. That had cream cheese in it besides
Yeah.
butter.
Well, the only time I have like dessert stuff is here. When we go to a restaurant, like when we went to Four Seasons last night, I didn't have room for dessert.
No, we never ordered dessert either.
Well, the other thing is, you're right. I mean, generally when I go out, I don't have room for it. But to be honest with you, the desserts are just so expensive in a restaurant. I mean, you're paying like $10 for a dish of ice cream. Give me a break.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just have a problem with spending what I consider to be an exorbitant amount of money on a dessert, which I don't need in the first place, right?
So Bob, since you're
right.
sort of on your own,
Yeah.
how much cooking are you doing?
I do quite a bit.
Yeah, you're a cook too, right?
Well, I do okay.
Yeah.
Last night I had real mashed potatoes, not instant. I always make my own mashed potatoes and made a hamburger plate with broccoli, green beans, mashed
Ooh,
potatoes,
that
gravy.
sounds good.
My granddaughter, she's 8, she loves a hamburger plate. And a lot of steaks, because my son's a hard worker, construction, he likes steak. My grandson, them two could eat steak 5 days a week. But,
Couldn't we all?
Huh?
I said,
Oh,
couldn't we
yeah.
all?
Well, you got to get your protein.
Well, the thing with the steak is there's iron in it. If you're not doing enough iron, you're well, in our age bracket, you got to start to figure out how to deal with
Hey, with all the
all the deficiencies.
the flu going around, I recommend to everybody this morning, you have the cleanest air you're going to have. So if you can find a way to open your windows today,
Yeah, good advice.
this morning, for half an hour, just air out the whole house for half an hour. Because of the snowfall, the snow grabs everything out of the air. So right now, whatever viruses were in the air outside, they're gone. Open your windows, half an hour, close your windows, much healthier.
I think that is very good advice, and it isn't, and it's going to get a little warmer, so you won't be losing that much heat if you do it. I mean, it's not like it's 0 out there, right? So,
Yeah, so it's,
Yeah,
it's
right.
only half an hour. Just,
yeah, no, I
now's
think
a good time to
that's
do
good
it.
advice.
The food bills don't bother me
advice.
as much as utilities. Right now, the past couple of bills I've seen, just gas and electricity. To me, it's gone through the
Well,
roof.
to me, the power companies knew they were going to screw you. When they were giving us free light bulbs 5 years ago, you knew your electric bill's not going to it's not going to go down a dime. They're providing less power to us than they ever have, and they're charging the same money they did 5 years ago.
We'll see if it goes down. One of the things that is a pet peeve of mine is that people have no patience. They're not
Really?
willing to wait for anything. Well, I have a couple of them. One is that people don't use directional signals when they're driving a car. And or they keep them on and then they don't commit and forget because they can't hear the ticking in the car.
I got a car, it doesn't make any noise. The freaking directional's on. and
Are you sure it doesn't make any noise or you can't hear it?
You hear it. But in this Toyota, it doesn't make any noise.
Well, mine does in all the vehicles we have.
I wish
And we have a
mine would go
Toyota.
blank all
I
the
just
time.
don't like tailgaters. That's all. When
Oh,
someone's up close
that
to
drives
that's-
me crazy.
Yeah, that bothers me.
Very
Well,
dangerous.
I don't like the fat turners. A fat turner is, okay, so we're going down Main Street in whatever town you are, and I'm going to take a left. But before I take a left, I swooze over to the right-hand side,
Yep,
and I curve my car so no one can get by.
yep.
I call those people fat turners.
Fat turners, I like
See,
that.
in heaven, I'm going to have an Abrams tank. And they won't pull that stunt on me.
When I was growing up, I wanted my father to install on the 53 Plymouth a device that if somebody cut you off or did something, you would be able to have the paintbrush go out and do this to the fender with yellow paint. And he thought that was hilarious. He understood why, but there's no way you can do that. And if you had, I'm losing power on this mic.
Oh, well,
See, it's off.
There you go.
no, you just hit the button. It'll go back on.
I did. It's going off.
All right.
It doesn't go back on.
Battery.
So anyway, yeah, the battery's gone. It doesn't really matter.
She's a baby. Go
Well,
ahead.
it's off if you want. I mean,
I'm
I
just
can
picking
certainly
on
talk
you.
louder.
I like your purple top.
Oh, thank you. At least in the
Change
the
the
light,
subject.
you can, yeah, you can see that. But anyway, so that was one of the things, and I also wanted it so that if somebody was tailgating you, it's kind of like Batman. Is it touchy?
You don't have the touch, I guess. Huh?
Don't touch it, okay? Don't touch it.
I didn't touch it before.
Shut it off.
Well, no, I shut it off, turned it on, and went off on its own. You got a touchy switch. Yeah, the toggle switch on the thing is bad. Anyway, so I always wanted it in the back so that it would spray out the back, and then you could leave, and the little thing would come down over your license plate so they couldn't tell who you were. I mean, there was all kinds of these little fascinating things.
My father actually did something like that. He had a 58 Dodge, and that's back when he was doing a lot of business driving, and he's on the highway. And he put in a toggle switch so that he could activate the brake lights by flipping a switch without stepping on the brake, and that's what he would do. He'd get some guy that was right on his tail, and my father would be driving at 60, 65, whatever it was, and without stepping on the brake, he would flip that toggle switch, the brake light would go on, and my father would, and the guy would come to a screeching halt. And I remember saying to him, I said, you're going to cause an accident. The guy in back of you was going to slam his brake on, and then the guy in back of him is, Father says, I don't care. He said, I don't want him on my tail. He said, I don't want him running into me. And he would flip that switch, and true
Well,
story.
then you have the people who drive with 2 feet.
Yeah. Oh, well.
The brake light's always on.
When, and I'm old enough to remember this, when the automatic transmissions started to become, very prominent back in the late 50s, some of the driving schools used to teach you to left foot braking. They used to teach that, okay? And they found out after a couple of years that that was not the way to go, because if you learned old school manual shift, you brake with your right foot because you have to deal with the clutch pedal. But this left foot braking, and I know people who learned that way, the problem is if you learn that way from the beginning, you don't learn that the first thing you do when you want to stop is to get your foot off the accelerator pedal, okay? So after 3 or 4 years of that, the driving schools flipped over and they said, even if it's an automatic shift car, we're going to teach you to brake with your right foot, because the first most important thing is to get your foot off the gas pedal. What they were finding is with left foot braking, people would get into a panic situation and both feet would go down, left one on the brake and the right one on the accelerator, okay? And they said, no, brake with your right foot, don't brake with your left foot. But I remember that was a big deal. A lot of safety people said, oh, brake with your left foot on an automatic car. And the answer is no, don't do that.
With today's temperatures going up to like 40, it's a good day to get your windshield washer fluid refilled.
Yes.
Because it's mild, you can pour that stuff in there pretty easy. Also, if your low tire light is on, good day to get your tires back up to the pressure they should be in.
Don't overinflate your tires, though. That's also a problem. Because if they're overinflated, then they lose their traction.
There's a number on the side for the max.
Yeah. Most tires are underinflated because people don't pay attention.
I max out my tires, better gas mileage.
Yeah, put them up to the max pressure. Like if it's 35, blow them up to 35. Right. But don't go past that. So.
Correct.
So we got sidetracked from where I was when I made a comment about having a pet peeve that people have no patience, because the direction I was going in is the fact that you had people 2 weeks after Trump got elected saying, well, how come the price of eggs hasn't gone down? How come utilities haven't gone down? Which means that they're not doing any research on knowing exactly how everything is delivered.
They don't know how an economy works.
No, and when you have millions upon millions of chickens that Biden said to euthanize, and some of those chickens were not even tested to see if they had the bird flu, then there's a major issue. Plus the fact that you're not only having chickens being killed, you have ducks. People do eat duck. I haven't seen too many duck eggs except what might be local, which is unfortunate. And if you haven't noticed, in the grocery stores, they're limiting the number of eggs people can purchase. I find that interesting because
Egg rationing, huh?
I don't buy any more than 2 dozen eggs at a time. What are they doing with the eggs? You only can keep them for so long, because the eggs that are in the grocery store have already been in play for a while.
They're already old. Right, they're already old.
And you can look online, and it will tell you how you can tell the difference, whether or not you have a fresh egg, a borderline egg, or a bad egg. And that is how it floats in water.
You can even rent chickens right now.
You
Rent
rent
Yeah,
chicken?
I've seen that recently. It was
Where do you
yesterday.
get them?
You could probably find them online the fastest, but some guy is renting 2 chickens, $500.
I love it.
And it comes with all the fixings. But you drive through New Hampshire, southern New Hampshire, a lot of houses have fresh eggs, duck eggs.
Right.
All over the place. But I use a lot of eggs in my house. I'd say a couple of dozen a week.
Well, what kind of got me a little bit away from some of the eggs is the fact that my youngest granddaughter is allergic to eggs. You know, she has an EpiPen. She really has an issue with any amount of egg whatsoever. And so you learn how to cook without eggs. And
Is that
that's-
common, or do a lot of people have egg allergy?
I don't know. If you have an egg allergy, you got to be careful of all of the vaccinations because some
Yeah,
of the stuff is
a lot
in
of it's egg-based.
Yes.
I
Right.
think the most common one in schools anyways would be peanut butter.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you're right.
And then you have tree nuts because peanut butter is not a tree nut. So you do have the different tree nuts, which would be, you know, cashews, almonds, pecans. There's all of those different ones that's out there, hazelnuts.
I never realized
Brazil nuts.
until the peanut allergy really thing became a thing, because I was growing up, nobody was allergic to peanuts, or at least nobody knew. But when that information, you know, when that started to be talked about, I just was surprised reading ingredients to find out how many things have peanuts as an ingredient, and you wouldn't think that peanuts would be in it. You know what I'm saying? And so, since you're the cook, so why would you put peanuts in stuff that you wouldn't think had peanuts, or you don't taste the peanuts? I mean, why is that such a common ingredient in
It's a
food?
cheap filler.
Well, maybe that's the answer.
You think RFK is going to get confirmed?
It looks like he
And
is.
it may be along party lines.
Yeah, I didn't think he would,
There's a
but
lot of bad information out there, and
Looks
it's
like he was.
unfortunate that with all of the negative comments, insulting comments, and the accusations, he's not alone, but the accusations that are being made, I'd like to ask some of these people that are making the false accusations, being sensational, you know, swearing and doing everything. What kind of an upbringing did you have? What kind of parents did you have? Who did you associate with that you are just so awful?
People on cell phones driving is no picnic, especially
Yep.
texting.
Yeah,
That's
even
a
though-
federal government. The FCC won't, but they must. If your cell phone's moving over 5 miles an hour, it doesn't work. That's it. Done. What about the kids? The heck with them. Let them look out the window. We're killing people. When you look next to people in traffic, they're reading their cell, even cops.
oh, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. It's a big
It's
issue.
it's bad.
Just out in Tewksbury, there's a water main break at 357 Pleasant Street.
Ouch.
Out in Tewksbury. So,
That's not good.
That's it. Thanks.
So is anybody doing anything special? Tomorrow's Valentine's
Yes.
Day. We want to wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day,
We're going
regardless of whether you're single, married, or separated, or whatever it is, or even a small child. It is a fun holiday. I don't know. Does anybody have any negatives to say about Valentine's Day?
No, my wife took my oldest granddaughter out yesterday. Charlotte decided she wanted to go out and buy a whole bunch of people Valentines, and
Sam, what do you want for Valentine's Day?
peace and quiet.
Bob, what do you want for Valentine's Day?
Some chocolate.
You
Ev,
should have
what do
told me. I would have bought some.
Oh,
Ev, what do you want for Valentine's Day?
I want to go out for dinner.
Are you going?
I want a nice hug.
There you go.
Well, I
Good answer.
bought champagne.
And that doesn't cost anything.
There you go. My wife, it's a fake holiday. It's just a self.
Does she see
Greeting
it?
cards.
Does she see it as a fake holiday?
Oh, when she was a school teacher, oh, she loved it. To see the little kiddos
Oh, yeah.
bring all the little cards and she'd preface the kids out, don't forget, if you're going to make a Valentine, make one for everybody.
Now, what grade did she teach?
Oh, Sam, embarrassing me. But it was like second grade.
Okay, but elementary, right? Okay, yeah.
She loved it.
My wife taught fifth grade. And so,
This guy wants an espresso pizza and a dozen roses.
there you go. Well, we're going out to dinner.
Could
In
be a
fact,
woman, I don't know. Comment from the audience.
I made the reservation a month ago.
Where you
And,
going?
Fiorello's in Concord.
Oh.
Great restaurant, and talk about reasonable prices. I mean, it's just unbelievable. You know, you think Concord, it's got to be pricey, but it isn't. You know, they very good
If you
Italian
go on the
food.
menu,
Yeah.
you get a real surprise at how things like that, like people say, oh, we went to Cobblestones last Monday, downtown Lowell. You say, oh, yeah, it's an almond. Like, no, it's not.
Well,
It
it
was
depends
very
on what you've
reasonable.
got. Yeah.
And it was out of this
Right.
world tasty. Loved it. Didn't like the snowbanks, but that's
Well, how often?
St. Tom didn't get rid of the snowbanks yet. They've been getting rid of snowbanks in downtown Lowell since I was a little boy. Not since St. Tom is in power. We don't do that.
Where do they put the snow when they pick it up
They used to put it in a truck,
and then they
and the
take
dump truck would dump it into the canal, which is illegal now.
it? No, they can't do that.
They
no.
dump it on the common.
Yeah.
Plenty of room on the common,
Yeah, I think,
but St. Tom doesn't want to do
My
that.
son-in-law runs a snow dump as one of his business things that he does, and they have contracts with towns in the area, down in the Framingham area, and cities and towns bring their snow to his snow dump, and he charges for putting this. I think it's a great deal, right? So, yeah, snow dump.
One of my
Because they
grandchildren-
can't, as John says, they can't dump it in the waterways anymore the way they used to. In the old days, they would.
Dump it at the beach.
They'd dump it at in the harbor or the rivers or whatever. They can't do
Well,
that
Lowell
now.
has this marvelous river walk that they can't plow
It's called
because
Hoey.
they have
Oh,
to
yeah.
cart the snow away. Hey, I want to just pull for my friend Mark Kratman. He's going to have a campaign party. This was supposed to be an announcement. I forgot to put it in there. So Mark's having a party March 5th. You're cordially invited to meet and greet reception committee to elect Mark Kratman, Tewksbury Select Board, Wednesday, March 5th, 2025, 6 to 10 p.m. At TJ Callahan's. Love that, right? Love that place to eat.
Is there a charge?
1475 Main Street in Tewksbury. And be there. I know I'll be there. Be there or be square. Back to you guys.
Is there a suggested donation for that?
No, there isn't one listed.
Okay.
Okay, Bob, you were going to say
well,
something.
tomorrow's my third grade granddaughter's birthday.
Hey,
Hey, happy
So,
birthday.
Yeah, so she wants to go with me so she can see what I'm buying. She doesn't like to be surprised.
oh,
I already bought her a bunch of wiffle balls. That's what she likes to do with me in the spring.
there you go.
Play wiffle ball. So I told her, we'll go out and get a wiffle ball bat. I got about 5 of them in the garage already. But
You can't have too many wiffle ball bats.
no, but third graders, I'll tell you, they're amazing how smart they are. There's a lot of kids in the classroom that can't read at a first grade level, but then you got half of them that can read at a fifth grade level. And it disrupts the teacher's class without a doubt. I mean, I've been on trips with these third graders on buses, and I say it all the time. When you get up on 128 or Route 95 heading toward Foxborough with a bunch of third graders, there's no seatbelts. If they ever get in an accident, it's crazy. I think they should have seatbelts too. You see the bus driver, he's in one, but the kids aren't. And boy, do they. I never was in a bus as a kid, never. I didn't take a bus to school. I
No,
walked to
I
school.
didn't.
I've never understood why. I mean, I understand why it's the expense, I'm sure, but logically, why don't we have seat belts in the school buses?
And I'll say this, I mean, the girls are as bad as the boys on a bus, believe me.
Sometimes worse.
It's not an easy job for
No.
a third grade teacher, that's for sure.
How'd you like to be a school bus driver?
No, I don't want to be a substitute teacher
That
either.
is rough. That is rough.
Having been a teacher, knowing what my substitutes put up with, no, don't want to go in that direction.
No, and then it doesn't pay a lot either, does it?
It pays something.
For substitute teaching?
Now,
Well, it
works for
depends.
some women though, so they could be with their kids.
Well, that's true. I mean,
Yeah.
they're on the same schedule as
Yeah.
their kids if they have school-age children, so.
And sometimes as a substitute teacher, depending upon if you're qualified or not, if there's openings and you get to be known as being really good, you could get yourself a full-time job. I've noticed that with paraprofessionals.
You can be a permanent sub, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And with paraprofessionals, there's a lot of places where, and I've seen it in Chelmsford, that's where a lot of people start, and then they end up with a full teacher job at some point. So,
Saints Memorial Lowell. Connect UC.
Well,
we're finding all kinds of things with John's telephone this morning.
you have somebody.
Nah, that's a business phone ringing.
You have somebody that works in your system as a para or a sub, and they're qualified for a permanent position, and hiring is all about minimizing risk. So wouldn't you hire somebody that you know and whose work ethic you already know, as opposed to looking at somebody from the outside and all you have is a piece of paper that says what they are, right? I mean, I'd rather hire the person that I've already had a chance to work with and I feel comfortable with that person, so,
So with your third grader, has she wanted to bake anything with you or cook, or have you tried that?
Not really. She likes to eat. That's it. She doesn't like to cook too much. I actually driving her home. She lives. I said, "Where you want to eat?" She goes, "I don't care." I said, "How about Olive Garden?" And I know that's not good Italian food, but I like their soups. She goes, "Okay." We went to Olive Garden, but no, she don't want to cook. I try to teach her how to make cupcakes and stuff like that, but
Is
she
it
has no
is it
interest
is
in
it because it
She
takes too
loves-
long?
You know what she loves? Math. I've been
Math?
Math. Yep, sitting down teaching her multiplication.
Oh, good.
She loves that. She'll do that all day with me. Got her doing 3 numbers now instead of just 1. She's doing 3, and it's fun to watch her do the math because, like I said, my oldest granddaughter, that's 24, she's ready to buy her first house. Yep, and she was a math. I like to say a math freak. Really, and she became a
That's
civil
good, though.
engineer.
That's
Yeah.
good. The
Yeah.
math back, what I found with my grandchildren is they teach the multiplication tables, but they don't drill them the way they did when I was
Oh,
in
yeah,
school.
we had the boards.
We
Could
had,
always had a
we
board
had to
there.
memorize,
Yeah.
in 3rd grade, we had to memorize our tables up through 12 times 12,
Sam,
okay?
you want to read this one?
And they don't do that. I was wondering if the farmer guy, Phil Jones, I guess, that's what
Yes.
they're talking about. I was wondering if the farmer guy will be on anytime soon. He had great info on gardening, great show today. Yeah, Phil is, Phil Jones, who's a local Chelmsford fellow. He's kind of, I'd say he's sort of retired from the farming, but he
He still does stuff.
still does stuff, and
You'll have
yes.
knowledge.
And
Yeah,
I want to
good-
let
Good guy.
I want to let him know, I have tried several times to reach out to Phil, and I'm getting nothing, because I
Comment
knew
says,
he
"Great
wanted
show
to.
today. Everyone go home and take a nap."
Yeah, I got a
No,
shovel.
I got a
when
lot of
get
things
home.
I have to do.
I'll fit one in.
Yeah, yeah, in the afternoon. I try to get a hold of John sometimes, and he'll say, "I'm taking a nap, I'll talk to you later."
No,
So
now
some
I
of
shut
the-
my phone off. I just
Well,
shut my phone off.
that's the thing to do.
Well, I did it the other day.
Turn off the electronics.
I did it the other day, and I slept through my hairdresser's appointment.
You go to a hairdresser?
Well,
as
he has to
opposed
get his
to
hair
As
cut.
opposed to a barber?
Yeah, Maria Manassas, down the bottom of,
Really?
yeah, classic hair design.
The only reason I go to a hairdresser is because my daughter is a hairdresser and she cuts my hair, but
Well, if I didn't have Maria, I'd go to your daughter.
would you really?
Yeah.
She's good.
I'm sure.
She really is.
We're not on this
Did a nice
monitor.
job with yours,
Oh,
too.
I'm sorry. I'll put your pretty.
So
face back
next
on.
week on,
And your lovely purple top.
next week on City Life, we have scheduled Paul Cohen.
Oh,
That's
good.
on the 20th of February. And on the 27th of February, John Moses is coming in. He'll talk to us about his 501c3 Afghan refugee nonprofit that's coming up. On March 6th, we have Vivian Merrill. We'll find out about all the different hats that she wears and what's coming up, and if you want to be on the holiday decorating committee, because everything starts very early, and if you start early enough, then you don't have as much work to do at the end. On March 13th, we're going to have, I don't know what Amanda's married name is, but Lucia, and so she'll come in. It was interesting, I met her in CVS yesterday. I was in buying some Valentine's Day stuff, and I
She
had,
usually has something to do with Camp Paul, right?
yes.
Yes.
She also is involved in the Business Association, and she also is
She's the
involved.
vice chair, I think.
And she also is involved, obviously, at the insurance agency that she represents. March 20th, we have Jay Lang coming in, superintendent of schools, so get all your questions ready for Jay. And so we're almost pretty much covered for the month of March, which is kind of nice, and the rest of February. And as always, if I don't have a guest, I can always have Glenn come in, and we can hear his perspective on all of the stuff that's going on as far
And
as
I keep
national
saying,
politics.
when you have Glenn in, I'm going to stay home.
Yes, but he likes you to be here, too, just like he likes Bob to be here, so that
I
we have a
know.
lot more interaction.
My phone says it's 34 outside, which means
Oh,
freezing
good.
rain.
Good. Good.
Yeah, we got to be careful. So
going
everybody,
away.
That's good.
we're not at the end of the program
I think it was
100%
wise
here,
for
but
them to-
just be very careful out there driving
Well, they
today.
claim it's going to go up to about 40. That's what they said this morning, so.
They don't get fired if they're wrong, so I hope it gets to 40, but
As long as it's above freezing, I'm
And it
happy.
said it's supposed to stop like in another couple of hours.
but I do
so-
believe the schools were wise to delay. I know Chelmsford didn't.
I agree.
Right. Well, some of them are kind of diehards. So,
Jay is pretty, he's conservative on
Right.
closing the schools. Yeah,
Yeah.
he is.
because they want to get out earlier.
Yeah.
They do have snow days built into the calendar.
5.
And
Well, in Chelmsford, your kiddos go off to school, you go off to work. Your kiddos stay home, you got to call work and say, hey, ain't coming in, buddy.
either that or you call the grandmother and ask what's going on.
Yeah,
To
yeah,
come out in the
oh,
freezing rain. Good thinking, Ev.
Well, I have to walk across the street, so I don't have a problem.
They do call grandfathers too.
Oh, I do a lot of
I do too, Sam.
babysitting. We all do, the three of us.
Yeah.
I don't know, what would they do without us, Bob?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Was there anything, Bob, you wanted to get out? I mean, you didn't have much to say this
No.
morning, but it was nice to have you here.
I'm just glad to be back.
I like
and,
it when Bob's in the middle like this.
Yeah.
That's always good, right?
Like I said,
Yes.
I like when
Evelyn
I,
can't hit you.
Right, exactly.
I missed Jay Lang last time. I wasn't here. I missed him. I like having him on, and Paul Cohen and Maria Santos.
He's
all of
good.
them.
I just taped Paul this week on my show, talking about the budget and, we
I
have.
was hoping to hear more out of you about last night with the planning board.
Oh, we can talk about that later. That
Is
was.
that on your show? Listen to facts. Are you going to have things to say?
I'm going to have planning board. No, we talked exclusively about the budget because it's difficult, and with town, we did layoffs in town.
Oh, we got.
Hey, Sam, off the top of your head,
Yeah.
with the MBTA railroad track rule, how many parking spaces are required for each unit in your town?
Generally, it's 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
In Lowell, it's 0, because the city council decided, the heck with the citizens.
Oh, people don't drive anymore in Lowell? What's the story?
Well, that's our city council.
Anyway, we're at the
Say
end of the
goodbye,
program.
kids.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we hope to see you next Thursday. But tomorrow, City Life, you'll see who?
I don't know. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.